Hello and welcome to the Rapaport market comment. India's diamond manufacturers appear to be producing polished in large quantities again. This statement is based on data for rough imports that the country publishes. In January, India's rough diamond imports jumped 63% year-on-year to almost 12 million carats. The value of them rose 43% year-on-year to around $1.2 billion. In February, rough imports increased 8% year-on-year to more than 15 million carats, and the value slipped 6% year-on-year to $1.6 billion, which is still the highest total since March 2023. Remember, imports were at rock-bottom levels in November 2023, caused by the voluntary freeze. That moratorium lasted for 2 months, from October the 15th to December the 15th, aimed at stopping the oversupply and thereby supporting polished prices. We've already discussed the reasons for the freeze on previous videos, but let's focus now on what happened next. As early as December, the numbers started to rise again. As you can see from this graph, the trend is strongly upward. De Beers' sites have followed a similar pattern, with a gradual increase in rough sales at every trading session since the trough in October. Here's another graph showing India's exports of polished diamonds, a good indication of current demand. You can see that polished exports also rose. The question is whether the increase in rough imports was reasonable given the current levels of polished demand. If not, India risks an oversupply of both rough and polished diamonds. Let's look now at how polished exports performed as a percentage of rough imports, starting with the carat volume. The actual amount of polished exports is lower than the rough imports, since you lose most of the rough weight when you cut and polish it. But assuming a constant yield, we can use the percentage trend to compare rough purchases with polished demand. Between January 2022 and September 2023, just before the import freeze began, the average for this was 19%, though there was a lot of fluctuation from month to month. Of course, the proportion rose during the 3 calendar months that were affected by the import freeze, with a peak of 38% in November 2023. Following the end of the freeze, the percentage slid to 11% in December, 13% in January, and 12% in February. That's very low. There are 3 possible explanations for this. The first is that it's a correction. Imports were so low in late 2023 that the Indian industry needed the rough to meet the polished demand that existed, most notably in the US and in the domestic Indian retail market. The second is that Indian manufacturers are being overly speculative after seeing an improvement in some segments of the diamond market in the last 4 or 5 months. The third is that buyers are taking advantage of the recent reduction in rough prices, most notably by De Beers at its January site, as we've discussed in past videos. Right now, they can get rough much cheaper than a few months ago. The average price of India's rough imports dropped to $99 per carat in January 2024 and $104 per carat in February 2024, compared with an average of $128 per carat between January 2022 and December 2023. This partly reflects the lower prices, though it's also related to the product mix. For now, the numbers indicate India's diamond industry is taking a fairly optimistic view on diamond demand. It will probably take a few months until we know whether that matches reality and whether there's a risk that last year's diamond glut will be repeated. This video is brought to you by RapNet, the world's largest and most trusted diamond trading network. If you liked it, please subscribe to get every new one we make on a weekly basis, discussing trends and analysis in the diamond industry. Thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of the week.